Hello and welcome back to the channel where it is the middle of the week once again, and that means only one thing, that it's time for the Super Rugby preview for round number 6 of the competition. Now once again we have 4 teams having a bye. That means we have 7 matches to get through. The 4 teams who will be not in action this weekend will be the Hurricanes, the Reds, the Sharks and the Stormers. 2 from South Africa, 1 from Australia and 1 from New Zealand. So we have 7 matches coming your way. Let's take a look at who is playing, where they're playing, who I think will win, and my reasons why for this upcoming weekend of Super Rugby action. Opening match of the weekend will be Friday night on April Fool's Day, no less, as well, in Dunedin, Forsyth Bar Stadium, where the Highlanders will finally be back at home and they will get visited by the Western Force. Now, the Western Force haven't had much of a tour of New Zealand so far, and I don't see it getting any better for them in this match in the most southern franchise of Super Rugby. It is back at home for the Highlanders, as I said, and already they look to be on the track, on the road to being, as they were last season, the best side in Super Rugby. The last 2 weeks, their displays and performances have really shown that they have that ability and talent to once again be a frontrunner for the title. The Western Force, on the other hand, much improved from what we've seen from them in recent seasons, and if they're playing at home, there's a chance I'd give them a slender hope of winning this match. But everything points to the Highlanders here, back at home. They look in great form. The team's performing exceptionally well, and there's really not much going against the Highlanders at the moment. They're pretty much a sure thing bet as well. Very, very, very short odds as well for the Highlanders, who look odds on to just wipe the floor with the Force in this opening match of the weekend. My pick for this match, of course, is the Highlanders to beat the Force, and my scoreline is 47 points to 13, one-way traffic all the way to the 80th minute for the Highlanders. We get another match on Friday night, but it's all the way over in South Africa, quite a few hours later, where the Lions are in action up against the Crusaders. This match, I think, is huge. This has the potential to be one of the big matches of the weekend, and there is, don't get me wrong here, quite a few big matches. This one could be one of the biggest. The Lions, they're back at home and they're coming off a bye, which is huge, rested, back at home, a lot of time there as well, and that gives them much more chance of winning this match. I think they're going to attack a lot more than we've seen from the Sharks against the Crusaders last weekend, and that might give them a little bit of an edge over the Crusaders, who will be more than happy to take the points last weekend against the Sharks. But will they settle for that, or will they push the tempo here against the Lions, a team who may give them that little bit more broken play than the Sharks? The Crusaders, they had a very tough win last weekend. They're still on the road. You've got to wonder here, the Sharks were a very, very different team last weekend than what we will see from the Lions. I think the Lions are a lot more aggressive and attacking, and it may change this whole matchup completely. The Crusaders may deal with it differently than they did to the Sharks, and I think the Lions may find a bit more room to penetrate the defensive line of the Crusaders. Now, some may call me crazy for this one, but I've got the Lions coming out on top, 19 points to 17 over the Crusaders. Home match in Johannesburg for the Lions, and that's going to be the difference for me. We make our way back to New Zealand, and it's Albany QBE Stadium, where the Blues are in action, and they'll be facing the Jaguars, their first match in New Zealand. Again, just like the Lions, the Blues coming off a bye, but what we yet to see from the Blues is any sort of consistency throughout their team. They're either quite good or they're quite bad. They need to find that middle road, and they need to lift up to a level where they're going to be competitive. They are at the foot of the New Zealand Conference as well, which really shows how strong this New Zealand Conference is when the bottom place side is good enough to compete with some of the better teams throughout the competition. As for the Jaguars, they're on the road again, only at home for the first time for 2 weeks, and they're back all the way over to New Zealand. Once again, I think for them, discipline is going to be key. We've seen yellow cards way too often for the Jaguars already this season. And when you look at them on the table, 3 losses to their name, but they are only minus 12 points differential, which is not very much at all. And they've got 3 bonus points as well from just 4 matches, which is going to serve them well later on the season to have that many bonus points if they can keep that up. My pick here for this one, Blues versus Jaguars, is that the Jaguars will be too good for the Blues. Now, that may surprise some people as well, but we're going down a limb here. I think the Jaguars are going to come to Albany, come to Auckland, and really show how good they are. My scoreline for this one is 31-23. The Jaguars have a great night out there in Albany against the Blues. Match number 4 of the weekend, and this one too could be the game of the round. And for my pick, it is the game of the round. It's the Brumbies versus the Chiefs. This is a colossus battle between 2 sides who have really looked so far above and beyond the others in the early stages. The Brumbies, though, I think they've lost a lot of that early momentum that they gained in the first couple of rounds, destroying the Hurricanes, and then they just slowly faded away until it was last week as well. A loss to the Brumbies, and then last week they really struggled against the Cheetahs, showed that they don't quite have it up against the South African sides, but they're back at home. The Chiefs, on the other hand, they are the best team in Super Rugby right now. Right now, they are number 1. I have no question about that whatsoever. They are just brilliant. Like I've said for 2 or 3 weeks now, their ability to score tries from just nothing at all. Nothing on. They don't need to be structured. They just score tries. They break the line. They make the room. And they just score some brilliant and fantastic tries. And that's what's going to count the Chiefs up against other sides. The Brumbies are a lot more structured team. The Chiefs, well, they are just outstanding in their field. I think the Brumbies need to bounce back to the form they had, but I think it still won't be soon enough against the Chiefs, as they're going to run away, I think, to a big win here against the Brumbies. I've got them 35-17 over the Australian leaders. Now, if you thought that was a mouth-watering prospect in a match, the Brumbies and the Chiefs, well, look what's coming up next. May not be the high-profile game that the Brumbies and the Chiefs will be, but the Kings versus the Sunwolves has just as much riding on it. 2 teams who have struggled to really make an inroads into this competition at all. The Kings have looked good in patches, Sunwolves the same, but now they finally meet. And for my 2 cents about this match, the Sunwolves have to win. There's no ifs, no buts about it whatsoever. The Sunwolves have to win this game. No question about it whatsoever. They will not get a better chance to take the victory. And I think they look pretty good too against the Bulls. They played the full 80 minutes, played the whole match, and they fought for that full 80 minutes as well. They scored some spectacular tries as well that will really hold them in good stead. Getting that close to the Bulls, bonus points again when you lose a match are always key for teams later on in the season. As for the Kings, you look at the highlights over their last couple of weeks. They're up 10-0 against the Crusaders after 20 minutes. They're only behind by 8 points against the Hurricanes last weekend with 10 minutes to go. So the Kings have shown that they have the ability to stick with their opponents, as have the Sunwolves, that we've seen multiple times that they should have won their matches, that they've just fallen off at the bitter end or just fallen just short in their major comeback. I think this is going to be a very exciting, close, tense match between the Kings and the Sunwolves, but I just have to see the Sunwolves win. I don't think it's a matter of them wanting to win or anything like that. They just have to win. So for that reason and that reason alone, I've got the Sunwolves coming out on top, 27-23 over the Kings. Right, we are sticking with South Africa, and it is the Bulls in action next. The Loftus Versfeld in Pretoria, they're up against the Cheetahs, and this is going to be another really interesting match. Both sides with really tough fight matches in round number 5. The Bulls struggled to put away the Sunwolves. The Cheetahs were very good against the Brumbies, but ultimately fell short. Now, this not only is a big match for these 2 sides head to head, it was also a massive match for Africa 1 Conference as well, as the Bulls and the Cheetahs are right next to each other with only a handful of points separating them. I think it's 4 or 5 between those two sides. So a win here for the Cheetahs could see them really jump up that leaderboard and become contenders, despite a consistent but ultimately just falling short of where they really want to be in the competition this season. So for that reason, the Cheetahs and the Bulls will be desperate to get a win against their conference rivals. That is really where you want to get the most of your points as well. And the Bulls, I think, will come out slightly on top of this one. 22-17 is the scoreline I've gone for. Bulls over the Cheetahs. Final match of the weekend once again, and we're over to Australia, where the Waratahs are up against the Rebels. Now, last weekend, what on earth happened when the Waratahs faced the Reds? They were absolutely hopeless and looked dreadful. Completely dreadful. The Reds actually looked good for the first time this season against a decent opposition. To their credit, the Rebels as well have also looked much improved, but last weekend they got completely shut out against the Highlanders, just managing one penalty. They couldn't bust the Highlanders' defence, and they looked very much out of ideas against that Highlanders' defensive line. Will the Waratahs offer the same? That is the question I've got about this match. The Waratahs, I don't think they're up to the defensive ability of the Highlanders, like we've seen last weekend from the Highlanders. But can they hold out the Rebels, who are not afraid to throw around some balls and put some attacking weapons into space? The Waratahs need to find form. They need to get back in the headlines, need to get back in the headlights of Super Rugby. Now, this one has a prospect to be quite a good match, but I think maybe there's a big possibility it could blow out as well. I'm going to go for the exciting option and call the Waratahs still to win this one, but 19-16 is my prediction for the final match of round number 6. Alright, so that is my 7 picks for this weekend coming up. Of course, as always, every single weekend, everyone is more than welcome to quickly put their picks in the comments below. I will leave the list of the fixtures in the description, so feel free to copy paste that into your comment as well and make your picks for the 7 matches this week. And the most successful picker, of course, we're going to mention on the weekend review video next week, where we have a look back at how right or wrong our picks may have been. There's been some stunners over the season so far, but still no one has got the score exactly right on any matches, so there's still a lot to be gained out there from Super Rugby. Alright, that wraps me up for today. Thank you everyone for tuning and watching. Hope you're enjoying these previews and reviews of Super Rugby. If you are, hit that thumbs up button, let me know that you're enjoying the series, and I'll see you all for the review in a few days time. Have a good weekend, enjoy your rugby, and I'll see you all very soon. Until then, take care.